Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. Hey Beer Geeks, it's Friday, it's 5pm. I hope you've had a stress-free week, which I think is about the most we can ask for at this point. How you doing, Brad?
I'm all right. I've had a bit of a stressful week, but I won't get into that for once. For once, I won't get into it, Johnny. But
you always say that, and then you still do. You're genuinely not going to go into it this time.
No. Well, I've had a few things kicking off. My cat Stevie hasn't been very well, but hopefully she's on the mend, and I've had some other things happen. But in general, we've had a nice week. We've done a lot of stuff in beer, and at the end of the day, we're here to talk about the beer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's been a rough week all over the world with lots of horrible scenes. And in fact, we're going to put some links to some charities that I donated to today that you guys can as well to help support the Black Lives Matters movement. But let's stick to beer, as the often conservative beer lovers will tell us. So this week, our video was all about Westvleteren 12, which I forgot I had in my stash. I had 4 of them that I'd forgotten about because they weren't stored in the same place as all my others. That is another form of privilege.
That's just showing off. 4 of them you didn't even remember about. 4 Westies. Crazy.
Yeah, I've just got like white whales just coming out of my ears, to be honest. Yeah. So I thought it was 5 years old. It turns out from all the comments, people are saying, nah, that's 3 years old. They put 3-year dates on Westvleteren 12, which is really disappointing. Partly because I don't remember being in Belgium in 2017, so I probably drank too many Westveterens. But also, I'm amazed that the monks don't think that their beer can last more than 3 years, because it definitely can. And in fact, it probably improves in bottled Westvleteren.
So the 3-year, they put a 3-year sell-by date on it, rather than you thought it was a 5-year.
Yeah, and these were going out of date in like 2 months' time, and I thought that meant they were just shy of 5 years. Turns out they're just shy of 3.
Okay.
But they did taste nicely aged. They tasted, very, very delicious. But as we talk about in the video, and as I put on Twitter to what could have been audible gasps, I wasn't there to witness them, but I said it's not the best beer in the world. In fact, it's not even the best quad in my stash.
Oof,
a lot of purists didn't like that, but it's a beautiful beer. But Rochefort 10, Abbott 12, ABT 12 from St Bernardus, I think even Straffer Hendricks quad, all 3 of them are better than Westvleteren.
It's just got such a legendary sort of mystique about Westie, hasn't it? Do you think it's just because it's got the coolest name? It sounds... I
mean, it does have a really cool name. It is also probably the hardest to get hold of all of them. And it is also one of the... Not only the rarest, but it also, a couple of years ago, probably about 10, 15 years ago now, they brewed an extra large batch and sent a load to America. And America went nuts for it.
Clever monks.
And I think that's clever monks, because it meant they got loads of rate beer ratings and stuff that from the Americans who loved rate beer at the time, and I think that really rocketed it up on all those rating sites. Whereas Rochefort's never had that boom, we're in your country kind of approach. Even though Rochefort, I think, has been in the top 10 for almost exactly the same amount of time. And yet you can see that with Cantillon as well. So Cantillon make fantastic lambic. I don't think they're the best lambic producer, but because they distribute fairly regularly in small proportions and do clever events in America, it means that they're the highest rated of the lambic blenders. So I think those two breweries sort of mystique-wise have taken a similar approach, and it's really fucking worked for them.
Boots
but
on
that's
the
not
ground.
to say the beers they produce aren't great.
Yeah.
Exactly. Bottles on the ground.
Bottles on
yeah.
the ground. Good stuff.
So yeah, the video is all about how it's aged, how it tastes. We go into the history of it, the shared lineage with both Westmalle and with St Bernardus Brewery, and give it a taste. And it is tasting beautiful. It's aged really nicely. We tried a slightly younger bottle and we were a bit worried it was aging too fast a couple of years ago when we compared it to the St Bernardus. Yeah. But actually that seems to happen really quickly, and then it's pretty stable afterwards. Not quite sure of the science behind that, but the science of beer aging is pretty tricky, as we learned in our very long video.
The question I know is on everybody's lips at home is what pub snack would you match with it?
You got to have cheese. You got to have Trappist cheese from the monastery on little cocktail sticks.
Nice, on cocktail sticks.
Yeah, man, that's how it's served. Usually with a little bit of this special sort of Belgian mustard, which is like a mild, slightly sweet mustard that you dip the cheese in. That's the traditional Belgian bar snack.
Mustardy cheese. Oh, sounds
good.
Mustardy
cheese.
Yum. Yeah. Yum.
And that would probably work really well with sort of the slightly herbal edge that Westvleteren has that Westmalle doesn't. That's probably a better match than like a Westmalle double or triple would be. And the comments are really interesting on this one. Lots of people vehemently disagreeing with me and lots of people vehemently agreeing with me, which is how I like the comments. Like lots of different views, lots of different approaches. And the one that caught my eye was one that actually only came through this afternoon from the Beer Hooligan, who's a beer reviewer online. He took exception with something that I said about how I find it interesting that we think that 5-10 monks in a monastery could brew the best beer in the world, not the people who have PhDs in fermentation science and have £1 million worth of lab equipment and have been doing it for decades and only doing that, which I thought was a fair point. Yeah. But the Beer Hooligan says, I think if they had the technology and labs of the other brews, it wouldn't be the best beer in the world. Far from it. What makes it the best in the world is the rawness of it. Then throw in the factor that only 5 monks make this beer, and now you get the rarity factor. Add the rawness and the rarity factor together. He's really thought about this. And then it becomes somewhat mythical. This is the Wagyu beef of beer.
Interesting.
That's only about a third of the comment.
That's only a third of the comment?
Yeah, I could keep going, but this podcast is meant to be 20 minutes.
Wagyu beef, they're very mollycoddled, whereas I imagine the monks have a very difficult life, very modest life.
You're comparing the cows to the to the monks, not the people who actually make the Wagyu beef.
No.
Well, I guess the cows do make it, but
the cows make it surely. But yeah, the people are the ones that are massaging them and feeding them beer. What do you think Wagyu beef would taste like if they exclusively drank Westvleteren 12? Because they drink beer, don't they, Wagyu beef? They feed them beer.
Is that right? Do they drink beer?
I think so, yeah.
But they're probably drinking Asahi or something.
Yeah.
I think it would improve the flavour.
Right.
I think, I when I have a couple of quads, I certainly feel like it's in all of me. It's a very intoxicating liquor, the Belgian quad.
We could call it Wegsy beef or something.
Westvleteren
beef.
Maybe you could.
We need to get those monks sorry, I keep interrupting. We need to get those monks to fly over to Japan and start feeding the cows and make a super product. Even more.
See, everything they do has to be either religious or for good causes, and I can't see feeding the richest people in the world slightly nicer beef kind of falling within the Trappist beliefs.
Now you say that, you make a fair point, Johnny. All right, I back down. But
what a craft beer channel video that would be if we picked up a case of Westie, then flew to Japan with it, and then tried to convince a Wagyu beef manufacturer to feed their cows Westvleteren. just because Brad thought it would be fun.
I think so. I think we should do that.
I'm in.
We should throw all of
Seems
our
like
budget
a good use of post-COVID
Exactly.
COVID goodwill as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Round the world trip. We go via Belgium to Japan, pick up some monks, pick up some cows, pick up...
Oh, we're taking the monks?
Why not? Give them a jolly. I reckon they've had a pretty mediocre life. I'm sure they're sort of happy in their own way. Yeah, I guess. You're probably right, actually. We're all constrained by the stuff that we own anyway. So, in fact, they're probably pretty much the happiest people going, I imagine. There you go.
There you go. There's Brad's view on how happy monks are. So, going back to the comment, I'd love to know what people think about this idea that if you have too much science in your brewery, too much technology in labs, does that compromise the beer in any way? I think it kind of cuts both ways in that it's definitely going to make your beer consistent. But in my view, it's always going to make it better. When I go to a brewery that doesn't have a lab where they're testing very specifically what they're putting out into the world, that makes me very nervous, unless I really trust that brewery. So I don't subscribe to what the Beer Hooligan's saying, but I understand it. And I think certainly a couple of years ago when I was getting into beer, I probably would have thought that. I'd have preferred, sort of unfiltered, unpasteurized, unanalyzed in a lab. Like, that would have seemed more craft. But I think the actual truth of it is most of the breweries you love will have significant quality assurance testing, taste panels. They'll know exactly, the yeast counts, the IBUs, the exact ABVs, all of the different levels of different compounds, like diacetyl and DMS. They'll know all of that because they've got to produce a consistent product. I wouldn't even be surprised if Westvleteren have a lab and they're probably testing everything that goes out, or they're sending it out for testing to check it's all still good.
Science monks, Johnny.
Science monks.
Science monks, wow.
I mean, science and religion, they've got a great history together, never falling out.
Wow, science monks. That's painting a picture in my mind.
Sounds like a really bad Netflix box set.
It does. I think I might watch it though.
I thought you were going to say that. I'd probably watch at least one episode.
Yeah, science monks. Science monks. I think they go around debunking science, and they'd be like, "No, that's not way. No, the world's not that way because of that. It's
just
because
like God
of
did that.
Divine force, not because of gravity."
You're more persuasive than me. Me just going, God did that, probably wouldn't be a great TV show.
No.
So yeah, if you've got any thoughts on that, do tweet us or put a comment on the Westy video. You can reply to the Beer Hooligan or just to us, and we can get a debate going. We're always up for debate. We also did a live show this week, didn't we, Brad? We did.
It was pretty much the 1 year anniversary of us putting out our first feature documentary, One for the Road, which was all about our exploration of the New England beer scene and why it's just about the best in the world. And it was a great experience, wasn't it, Johnny? Our live watch along.
It was, yeah. So it was. We realised it last Friday. Basically, I looked at the calendar and saw that it was exactly a year since we released our documentary, and we were like, "Shit, how can we celebrate that?" And we worked out that we could do it via StreamYard in a slightly kind of crowbarred way. But actually, it worked really, really well. We got to do a nice little intro. We took questions afterwards, and we could sort of comment DVD director's commentary style while it was going on. And it worked really, really well. So I think we might look at doing that, next time we do a live show that's brewery-based. So we've got one next weekend with Cloudwater, where we'll be interviewing Paul, the founder, and drinking 6 of his IPAs. You can still buy packs for that. There's a link in the descriptions box for this podcast. We could possibly watch a video we've done with Cloudwater before and keep that format going. Because we were there for the first ever New England double IPA being brewed in this country, and we filmed that. So that'd be a cool thing we could sort of insert now we know how it works.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to watch maybe some funny ones like Asian Oktoberfest, just for the lols. I think a director's commentary. I didn't get to go to Asian Oktoberfest, so I want to watch it back with everybody else. and I want Johnny to tell me about all the crazy shit he got up to behind the scenes, or didn't get up to behind the scenes. And
there was the craziest one actually was I ended up in a brothel.
I didn't want to mention it, but I know the story.
I mean, it was purely accidental.
Yeah.
We did not realise it was a brothel. We thought it was a karaoke bar.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are lots of stories like that from China. It was a very, very mad trip.
Yes. So I think that might be on the cards, and maybe some theme nights as well, maybe like lager or something as well. So
yeah, and watch like a bunch of lager videos and stuff. Yeah, so that would be awesome. If you guys have any ideas of stuff you'd love to see, let us know. But otherwise, we'll be thinking and we'll be coming up with some concepts and some people we can work with to get beer fresh to you guys, so we can do a drink along of it. Talking of live shows, tonight, if you are around and not listening on Dave, that joke doesn't work in podcasts. Also doesn't work because I do it every time. I am having a chat with Omnipollo, the founders of Omnipollo, tonight at 8:30 p.m. on their importers Instagram, Cave Direct, who I used to work for. So they've actually just stopped being gypsy brewers, although they might still do a little bit of gypsy brewing. They've actually set up a new brewery in a church.
Nice.
Lots of religious themes today.
Yeah.
And so we'll be getting a tour of that church/brewery with them and be asking some questions. And we're going to do a drink along on Instagram with those. 3 of those beers are over 10%. So it'll be a drink along and then it'll be a pass out along.
Good luck with that, Johnny.
So, yeah, should be a lot of fun.
Yes.
I don't quite know how that's going to play out, but we'll see. So yeah, if you've got no plans tonight and want to watch me pass out live on Instagram, then head over to Cave Direct's Instagram. I think it's at Cave Direct UK. It's the official Instagram for some Omnipollo news. So the final thing we need to talk about is next week's video, which we're going to hype up, aren't we, Brad?
We are. We're going to hype it. Hype.
It's a very exciting episode. We've been, just before lockdown came into play, Brad and I were starting to nail down all the details and all the funding we needed to launch a proper homebrew playlist. So how to homebrew almost from scratch. Now, lockdown meant that Brad and I couldn't meet, meant that funding kind of fell apart, meant that we didn't have the equipment delivered. So we haven't actually been able to do that, but we will do that this year, hopefully. But I have been hankering after a proper hand-pulled pint of cask ale, which, if you're not from the UK, is really sort of an inbuilt need in British humans, this love of cask ale. And so I got so sick of it, I decided to brew my own. So that is what our video is on Wednesday, me desperately trying to find out how to produce real ale, which is really tricky because not only do you have to ferment it in a certain way, you then have to ferment it in a secondary container so that you get natural carbonation, and then you have to pull it through a traditional hand pump to get the sort of the proper body and mouthfeel. So I've been buying secondhand things on the internet, I've been filling bags with beer, I've been hacking bits of pipe apart and doing all kinds of things to try and make it happen. And I think it's going to be a very exciting episode.
Nice. You're a bit like the A-Team when they might get caught somewhere, or MacGyver, and they have to build some wacky, crazy contraption to get what they need or to escape. But what you need is a hand-pulled pint. So you've been engineering that. I love it.
The stakes are pretty low compared to the A-Team, but it's still as dramatic, and there's lots of montages, so you know it's got serious.
And no one died making it either, which you never saw anyone die in an episode of the A-Team ever. Plenty of people get shot, no one dies on screen. Fact.
And there you go. Wholesome family show based around violence.
Exactly. And a hate of helicopters, which is fair enough.
Do you hate helicopters?
They are statistically, I think, about the most dangerous mode of transport. I might be wrong on that. They're not a safe mode of transport.
It sounds legit.
They're fucking dangerous. I mean, they're whirligigs. They shouldn't be up in the air, surely. Having said that, I've flown in a helicopter and I thought it was fucking awesome. So,
So mixed messages from the brand.
Sometimes it's worth taking your life into your hands when you get to fly in a little glass like box sphere that can, you can look out of, and it's cool, man. It's cool. It was very Jurassic
I've
Park.
never been in a helicopter, but I really want to now.
Yeah,
the way you described that does sound deliciously dangerous.
It was spicy, dangerous, and it's a sort of
spicy
thing
whirly gig in the sky.
Yeah, like billionaires use these fucking little things to fly about. They're for a different sort of league of, whatever. I don't know.
Which begs the question, Brad. What were you doing in a helicopter?
Well, okay, so I was at a steam fair with my dad when I was about 15 years old. A steam fair is Victorian steam engines. And there was a guy doing helicopter flights. I think it was £15 for me, £15 for my dad. And we went up in a helicopter for about, I guess it was probably about 5 minutes. In the middle of a field with hundreds of people around. And it was definitely a bit dangerous. But wow, that was a lot of fun.
What a different life I'd have had if that helicopter hadn't made it back to the ground.
Exactly.
Safely.
Yeah.
I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
And on that bombshell,
yeah.
I regret saying that immediately. It's 20 minutes, Brad. So that's the end of everyone's commute from their desk to their sofa.
Yes.
I can't wait to do a podcast that is actually people commuting. And I hope that when we do, everyone sends photos of them, well, unless they're driving, of them listening to The Bubble and actually podcasting. So I'll finish on the exciting news, which I haven't even shared with Brad yet, which is that this podcast has just broken into the top 100 podcasts in the UK for food and drink.
Way! That's amazing.
So thank you to everyone that has been reviewing and listening and getting us up there. We'll keep trying to grow and keep trying to make this podcast better and better and better so we can keep climbing those rankings. But that's an exciting thing to see and proof that we've got the concept right. It's just our delivery.
Yes.
And we'll get there.
Yes.
Have an amazing weekend, and we will see you on Wednesday for some home brewing.
See ya.
The Bubble Podcast is brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's Craft Beer channel. Head to youtube.com/the Craft Beer channel to watch this week's video and over 400 more exciting episodes. If you love what we do, please do subscribe and even join our Patreon at patreon.com/craftbeer channel. Love and beer.